England coasted past Serbia in what was a very unconvincing game. Reese, we are here to talk everybody else through the game and what went right, what went wrong. First of all, what are your initial thoughts on England's performance last night?
People talk about whether Southgate out and that whole side looked bait, whether or not that's justified. When you look back at the fact he got us to the Euros final last year at Wembley, you look at the Croatia semi-final in the World Cup. But last night's performance against a poor Serbia side, let's be totally honest, last night's performance was a typical Gareth Southgate performance. It was get yourselves ahead nice and early in the game, which we done fantastically through Jude Bellingham. But then the rest of the game we spent defending, and it really was backs to the wall at times against the Serbia side that really shouldn't have been causing us problems. And now I mean that with respect. But the problem that I have is that Southgate never wants to push for that second or third goal. If we progress through this tournament and get out of this group and we faced a France, a Germany, a Portugal, a Spain, even Denmark in the next group game, if we face these sides in that same manner that we face Serbia, we're going to get beaten. That wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and the only issue that I have is that in the first half, we were playing absolutely brilliant football. We came out firing, we scored a goal relatively early through Jude Bellingham, and after that in the second half. And I always tend to expect this from England now, where we always seem to fade out of games. But yesterday we faded out of the game. And the thing is that I don't know why it happened. So I think there are a couple of players, and we are going to do our player ratings as well. We'll rate all the players yesterday out of 5. But we'll talk about this further in our player ratings. But I thought some players on the pitch yesterday looked very uncomfortable. And I don't know whether that was the reason why we kind of dipped in our performances in the second half. But if we look at it in hindsight, we won the game. A lot of teams who go on to do well in cup competitions, they don't normally start their opening games well. Is there a danger of reading too deeply into yesterday's performance?
I guess there's a danger, but for me, there isn't. That first game, it sets your pedestal and it sets your standard for the rest of the European campaign, however long that may be. And the problem is that we're not killing these teams off. My problem with Southgate and my problem with the England team at this moment in time is that we've got a fantastic 11, maybe the best 11 in this competition, in my opinion, because we've got a perfect blend of youth and players coming through. The likes of Jude Bellingham, who last night, that was incredible, probably the best individual performance I've ever seen from a player last night. But you complement those young players with the likes of Harry Kane and Kieran Trippier and Jordan Pickford, players who have got tournament experience. And this squad should be producing a lot more than it is.
Now let's talk about the formation as well, because England lined up with a 4-2-3-1. Kieran Trippier, Mark Gahey, John Stones and Kyle Walker at the back with Jordan Pickford in goal. Declan Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold both in midfield, and Phil Foden seemingly playing as a winger alongside Bukayo Saka, with Jude Bellingham as attacking midfielder and Harry Kane up front. So when you first saw the formation, did you think of anything? Did you like the way we initially lined up?
Yeah, the way we initially lined up, I don't think anyone could have too many complaints. The only complaint you could have from the outside was where Phil Foden was playing. My first thought when I saw Trent in the midfield was, okay, this is a game against a poor side where he can really show what he's about. He can make that position his own, and he can really go on to produce a good performance. I'll get onto that when we talk about him more later, but that's probably our best 11 that we could have named at the time. I know there's question marks over a couple of players, and the back four definitely isn't as strong as it could be when you look at who's missing within that, but that probably is our best lineup.
And let's quickly talk about, because we will talk about this in a little more detail when we do the player ratings, but a player who I do want to bring up is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Southgate is seemingly experimenting with where he's playing on the pitch. He's either playing as wing-back or in midfield. But talking about the Trent Alexander-Arnold midfield experiment, do you think it's worked, or do you think he was a little bit, and I hope I'm not putting words into your mouth here, but a little bit unconvincing?
I genuinely think, I'm not saying this as a gag, I think Trent's best position is on the bench. I really do. Last night, when Conor Gallagher came into the midfield alongside Rice, he showed exactly what Trent can't do. He was tenacious. He got the ball first. His press was fantastic. And that's the exact partner that Declan Rice needs in midfield. And if we're saying that Trent isn't going to play alongside Rice, then he's playing more in his more familiar role, I guess you could call it, at right back. But no one's going to drop Carl Walker. I thought last night, again, he was absolutely fantastic. So where does Trent actually fit into this side? I know we can talk about Trent's passing ability and how he pings the ball. And look, that's incredible. That is. But he simply doesn't deliver when it matters most. There's a great example. People look at Trent and they go, he's in the team for his set-piece delivery, for his free kicks, for his corner kicks. The free kick he had, I think it was in the first half, didn't even get close to going over the wall, did it? It was a really poor taken free kick, and his corner deliveries were really poor also. So I don't actually see what Trent brings to this team. Yes, okay, his passing ability is there, but when you're alongside Declan Rice, that isn't enough. You've got to be able to bring the ball forward. You've got to be comfortable playing out. I don't think Trent ticks those boxes.
And personally, I think he's a good player. I reckon he's one of the best wing backs in the world. And if you look at the statistics from yesterday's game, he had a 91% pass accuracy. He made 60 touches. 5 out of 7 of his long balls were completed. He had 3 shots, not many of them on target, unfortunately. 2 ground duels won and 2 interceptions. So people are saying that he was actually quite tidy yesterday. But the problem is that he's a brilliant passer and he's a very good creator, but I don't think he's comfortable in a position where he hasn't necessarily played that much in. Because if you were to ask me, I'd call Alexander-Arnold one of the best wing-backs in the world. That's how much I rate him. But I thought yesterday in midfield, he didn't necessarily create many chances that played off. You could read into his passing accuracy, you could read all these statistics from him yesterday, which all read very, very well. But I don't necessarily think he created many important chances that played off well. And finally, another player who we are going to talk about, Phil Foden. He drifted inside, linked up play relatively well, but I thought he was invisible yesterday. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was. I think that performance highlighted why Phil Foden isn't a left winger. He's a number 10. He should be behind Harry Kane. That's where he's going to shine, and that's where he shines for Manchester City. You compare the two sort of wings for England in that game last night. You look at Trippier, you look at Foden ahead of him, and you look at Walker, and you look at Saka ahead of him. And the combination of Saka and Walker really carried us through that game. I can't think of a passage of play between Trippier and Foden when they actually exploited out their fullback. That was how poor they were. I forgot Foden was on the pitch. The only way you can sort of get Foden into this team, controversially maybe, is to play Bellingham alongside Declan Rice in midfield, give Bellingham the box-to-box role. He moves up with play, he moves down with play. You put Foden in the number 10, and you put a natural left winger in Cole Palmer on the left. You're not going to get the best out of Phil Foden that wide. He was ineffective. And let's be honest, it's the same sort of discussion around Trent. If these players can't do it against a poor Serbia side in these positions, how are they going to do it when we get to the quarter final against a France, a Germany, a Spain? These players aren't shining against lower opposition. They ain't got a chance against the sort of bigger boys in this competition.
So let's get on to our player ratings. We are going to rate every England player out of 5. And we'll start off with Jordan Pickford in goal. So personally, I will rate him a 3.5. I thought he was quite nervy at times. One nervy punch that kind of stands out in my mind. How did you rate him, Reese?
I've gone for 4 out of 5. I thought the save at the end was incredible, but the thing that impressed me most about Pickford yesterday was the sort of variety of his passes. It weren't just playing out of the back for playing out of the back's sake. He was hitting balls long into Harry Kane, and that really proved to be out of the times when Serbia, especially in that second half, really put us under the cosh and we couldn't escape. That long ball from Pickford to Kane, when Kane would win us a free kick, a lot of that justice has to go to Pickford to actually mix his game up and to do that. I know you look at the nervy punch, but my sort of thing behind that is I'd rather a keeper punch it and at least get it out rather than try to catch it and it slips through his hands and the striker gets an open goal. I'd rather a keeper just get rid of it.
So Kyle Walker, he did miss a very important chance to make it 2-0, but I thought he defended pretty well. I will give him a 4. How about you, Reese?
Yeah, I want your view. Going to expand there, mate. Yeah, I totally agree. 4 out of 5 for me and Kyle Walker. He exemplified exactly what he does best. The overlapping runs and unlapping runs with Saka. That link-up play on that right-hand side worked a treat. How many fullbacks who are 32 years old can get up and down that line as well as Kyle Walker can? I know you look at his chance and you think, okay, you probably should score that, but he does take a nudge in the back, which does make him unbalanced. So maybe if that nudge in the back doesn't happen, then potentially he does score that chance. I think we're looking at, with Kyle Walker, quite an underrated fullback. I genuinely think in terms of right backs, he's got to be the best in the world for me. The way he gets up and down that side, how well he defends, is impeccable.
He's 34 years old, by the way, and personally, if you were to ask me, he's one of the best wing-backs in the world, probably, in my opinion, of his generation. John Stones, he really impressed me. I'm going to give him another 4 out of 10. He looked sharp, looked composed. How would you rate him, Reese?
I've gone for 4, and the only reason that's not a 5 is because this is the level of standard we've come to expect from John Stones now. He does what John Stones does. I know there was a question mark over how Stones would perform given that Maguire had to withdraw from the squad and how well will that central defence partnering work. But Stones, he stood out. He was fantastic yesterday. 4.
And a player who controversially I thought didn't struggle. I thought he defended well, but he had a few nervy moments. Mark Guehi, I thought he was strong, snappy. I thought he makes a decent Maguire replacement, but I did think he had a couple of very nervy moments, especially one passage where he was trying to shield the ball for Jordan Pickford, and there was a bit of miscommunication right there. I will give him a 3.5 because he still makes me nervous. I still think he's relatively inexperienced and unconvincing, but I think he has plenty of potential, and if he finds his feet in the tournament, which I kind of think he did yesterday, then he will be absolutely brilliant as centre-back. But if we keep it in hindsight, that was his first game in, I think, competitive English football, so in reality, I thought he played quite well, but I will give Mark Guehi a 3.5 out of 5. How about you, Reese?
I've been a little more generous. I've gone with 4.5. And the only reason why that isn't a 5 is because there's a couple of nervy moments. I think the void that Harry Maguire leaves at the back is a really big sort of gaping hole. And Guehi, okay, look, he wasn't perfect. But to come in with that strong of a performance last night, when your team was under the cosh as we were in our second half, really shows the sort of centre-back in which he is. And I actually think during commentary, the way they were describing him, it was like he was a Championship or League One defender. This is a defender who's been absolutely sensational in the Premier League this season, and he's been quite under the radar. He's gone quite underrated, I think, and a little bit unnoticed. But last night, he was fantastic, 4.5.
So Kieran Trippier, again, I thought Kieran Trippier had a fairly poor game yesterday. I don't know, I thought there was a reluctance with Kieran Trippier going forward, and a lot of the reluctance came with him using his left foot. I thought defensively he was okay, he required treatment late on, but I'll give him a 3 out of 10. How about you, Reese?
He was okay, and that's why I can only go for a 3. I'm quite a traditionalist. My left back, I want him to be a left footer. I know we've got the injury at the moment with Luke Shaw. He was named as a substitute last night, but perhaps wasn't fit enough to come on. So I think if he was fit enough, he would have come on in the latter stages just to give Trippier some minutes in the legs and just to make sure he was okay for the Denmark game. And that's why there's so many question marks for me over why the likes of Leif Davis or Tyreek Mitchell at Crystal Palace, why these naturally left-footed left-backs aren't in the England squad. You compare Kyle Walker and how good he was going forward. You compare that to Kieran Trippier. The left side last night was really, really poor. We relied so heavily on our right-hand side. I can't go above a 3 because Trippier he was okay.
And Trent Alexander-Arnold, look, we've already spoken about him in detail. I thought he struggled yesterday in midfield. I will give him, and this may sound really harsh, but a 2.5 out of 5. How about you, Reese?
I've gone slightly lower. And the way I'm doing my sort of rankings is 3 is okay, and anything below a 3 is a poor game. I've gone with a 2, and I don't think people would be surprised if he went down to 1.5. So I thought Trent was really poor yesterday. He struggled. People say that Trent was named in this England squad because of his set piece ability, his ability with free kicks, his ability with corner kicks. The free kick he had in the first half was so incredibly poor, straight into the wall. You can't at least get that over the wall. The corner kicks he had were either too close to the goalkeeper or too far away. He didn't find that sort of balance. And the problem is when you have the likes of Conor Gallagher come on to replace Trent and to partner Rice in that midfield, and Gallagher made all the difference, I thought, last night when he came on. He was tenacious. He got stuck in. He got to the ball first. You compare that to what Trent Alexander-Arnold done, I can't go above a 2, maybe even a 1.
And I do think that yesterday we did lack a lot of balance, which was probably the reason why our performances did dip in the second half. And with Alexander-Arnold, again, I really do rate him as a wing back, but I don't know. And personally, I think that Gareth Southgate is sacrificing a more defensively disciplined defensive midfielder over, say, Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example. Because I thought yesterday, again, I mentioned it earlier on in this video, I just thought he was very kind of like shaky, unconvincing, made a couple of mistakes, didn't really create enough. Let's go on to Declan Rice. He was absolutely brilliant yesterday, in my opinion. Unselfish, positionally aware, made some brilliant interceptions as well, and was always in the right place. I will give him a 4.5 out of 10. How about you, Reese?
He's got my first 5. I really thought he was sensational in midfield last night, and if he wasn't there, I really fear for how the game would have actually panned out, to be honest. I thought he protected the back 4 expertly well. And when we were under the cosh, that's where these players can shine. And that's exactly what Declan Rice done. Okay, he wasn't getting forward and exploiting Serbia defensively, but what he done for us in order to protect the back 4, to protect the likes of Gehi and Stones, I thought he was fantastic. 5 out of 5.
And the player who was absolutely brilliant yesterday, and you were speaking about his performances earlier on, Jude Bellingham. He absolutely dominated the big stage, surged in for a 1-0. Like, that was a brilliant header, in my opinion. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham could potentially be one of the best young English players we've ever had. I'll give him a 5 out of 5 because he was faultless yesterday. Was a little quiet in the second half, but I don't think that was necessarily his fault. A lot of the performances around him dipped as well. But as I just said, 5 out of 5 for Jude Bellingham. What about you, Reese?
I've gone with a 1. No, I'm joking. It is quite obviously a 5, isn't it? When you look at the guy and look at what he's won. He's won the La Liga. He's won the Super Cup. He's won the DFB Pokal, the Golden Boy Award. He scored a brace in El Clasico. He won La Liga Player of the Year in his debut season. He's won the Champions League. He scored for England at both the Euros and at the World Cup. He's only 20 years old. When you look at his list of achievements, it's no fluke. it's very rare that you see a central midfield player look so comfortable in all thirds of the pitch. And that's exactly how Jude Bellingham looked last night. It didn't matter if he was in our own box, on the edge of our own box. He was calm in playing out. There's a great passage, I think it was in the first half, where he runs around one of their attackers, gets fouled, stays on his feet, and then gets fouled again. He's tenacious, his work ethic, the way he dictates play. And that header, it was brave. There's a lot of players, I think, that wouldn't have gone in for that. That wasn't an easy header. And I don't believe in the fluke within the ball in, to be honest. I didn't really understand the logic behind that in commentary. I don't think there was any fluke in that goal. I think the pass to release Saka was inch perfect. The cross was fantastic. And Bellingham put his head on the line there in a very dangerous situation and makes it 1-0.
And let's talk about Bukayo Saka as well. Again, brilliant winger, one of the best young English wingers at the moment. I thought, look, he zipped inside quite well. He did have some very decent runs. He did kind of like create the cross for Bellingham's goal. I thought he was okay. I'll give him a 3.5 out of 5. How about you?
He was okay, and by that logic, it's a 3. Look, first half, he was fantastic. He ran the show down that right-hand side. He was cutting in. He was taking his players on. He was getting to the byline. He had, I think it was Pavlovic on the left. He had him on absolute toast. Second half, like a lot of the team overall, to be honest, he just fell off. He wasn't able to beat his man anywhere near enough. Pavlovic won all the individual battles. If he could have continued in that same vein in the second half, then we'd have been at a 5 out of 5. He would have matched Jude Bellingham. The problem is, and perhaps from a tactical point of view, we fell off in that second half. Saka went quiet. Too many of our big players in that second half just went quiet. It's a 3 for Saka.
And Harry Kane, look, we all know how good Harry Kane is, but I think yesterday he had little service. And look, Jared Bowen almost created a goal for him in the second half, but Kane, unfortunately, I think he headed it on the bar. If not, their goalkeeper saved it. Yeah, I thought he was underwhelming yesterday. I'll give him a 3.5, which may sound incredibly harsh because he wasn't dreadful. And, you know, like, by our logic, a 3 is okay, a 2.5 is poor. But I didn't think he was brilliant. Yeah, 2.5 out of 10. Is that harsh, Reese? What have you given him?
I've gone for a 3. Again, with that same logic with Saka in the fact that he was okay. It goes to show you that Harry Kane is the sort of player that needs wingers either side of him to start to beat their man and to get balls into the box. Because the one time that happened with Jared Bowen taking his man on, and getting the ball into the box, Kane is very unlucky not to score. It's a world-class save from the keeper. I can't remember his name now, but it's an absolute fantastic save. The problem is that in that second half, we were far too deep. We were far too passive, and I almost wanted more from Kane. I wanted Kane to be a little bit higher up, and he did do it well at times when the fact that he held the ball up, he drew a foul out of the centre half, and he moved us up the pitch. But the problem is that Kane's almost trying to play 3 roles here. And what I mean by those 3 roles is the fact that people want a number 9 to be all about scoring goals. In the new style of play, that's not number 9 anymore. And number 9 is more about dropping deep and trying to create space for your wingers or for your number 10 to make your sort of running behind you. The second way is the way in which he holds the ball up. And the way he done that last night was absolutely fantastic at times in terms of drawing the foul. So look, he was okay, unlucky not to score, didn't do anything to sort of write home about, didn't really have a good game. He was okay.
Yeah, and I agree. And Phil Foden will be the final player here we are going to do a rating for. Look, I thought he was very poor. I thought he was very quiet as well. Look, he's obviously a brilliant player, but he had an off day yesterday. I'll give him a 2. Why do you think he played so poorly yesterday, Reese?
I think he was out of position. He's not a left winger. He was too effective yesterday. I forgot he was on the pitch. If you want the best out of Phil Foden, you've got to play him just behind Harry Kane in that traditional number 10 role. And I can hear the comments screaming at me already. Well, where are you putting Bellingham? I'm putting Bellingham next to Declan Rice. And telling Bellingham, you got your license to go box to box, you go where the play goes. Because you've got to get Foden in behind at number 10, and you've got to have someone like a Cole Palmer or an Eze out on that left-hand side to give the service to Harry Kane. Phil Foden out there simply was ineffective. He was bland. And it's so uncharacteristic. And the reason why that is because he doesn't play there at club level. And to suddenly to be thrown in at the England team and to do that there is a really hard challenge to actually overcome. And you notice the difference between Phil Foden at left wing and Phil Foden at cam by the way in which Bukayo Saka played on the right-hand side. You could tell he was a natural winger. You could tell that's what he was used to. And we've got to start to play these players at their natural positions, at positions in which they know. We're in the European Championships. This isn't a time for experimenting. The time for experimenting was 2-3 games ago when we had the friendlies and the sort of pre-tournament warm-up games. Those were the games to put Foden out on the wing and to see how he does. The bottom line is, you could stick him out there now. He wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on by saying that. And again, your rating for Phil Foden, what did you give him?
I've gone for a 2. And to be honest, at left wing, I could have gone with a 1.
Yeah, and that wraps up our show. And obviously, a lot of England fans had a good time last night. And to end this video, one England fan woke up to an empty stadium yesterday or this morning.
Okay, just walking out. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm shivering, ain't shouting on.
I didn't realise it wouldn't block off the whole screen, so you could see our reactions right there. But thank you very much for watching, and we will all see you all next time.